Hello, my name is Jake Lieberman. I'm here on behalf of Film Independent, and I'd like to thank our partners, the Kate and Goldrick Family Foundation, the Claims Conference, and the New Orleans French Film Festival for making today's conversation possible. This event is part of our ongoing Holocaust awareness program, Always Remember. Please join me in welcoming Michel Hazanavicius.
Hi,
Thank you so much for being here, Michel.
thank you.
The film is so wonderful. It's so beautiful and important, and thank you so much for making it and sharing it with us.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. It was a long journey to make that movie because it's my first animation movie. I never made any kind of animation before this one. And well, it's a long story. So this movie was very important for me in my personal life. And so yeah, it was long and difficult, but I'm very not proud, but I'm glad to have done it.
That's a great segue, actually, for my first question. You don't see a lot of Holocaust films told through animation. And I was wondering, could you speak a little bit to your decision to tell this story through animation as opposed to live action?
Yeah, well, to be absolutely honest, when the producer approached me, it was already the decision to make an animation movie was made already. And actually the author, Jean-Claude Grimbert, wanted to make it as an animation movie because first of all, it's an adaptation of a book, and the book has been written as a tale, like a tale for kids, not only for kids, but also for kids. And animation, just for that reason could be enough to decide to make it to make an animation movie. But I think we have some more some deeper motivation to put this movie into an animation, and especially it's about the representation of the camps, the suffering, the Shoah, the Jewish genocide, and I have to say that I could not make a live action movie on that topic. It's impossible for me to ask to extras, for example, to pretend they are being deported in a train for Auschwitz. There's something that I can't do here. And I think it's because even when, as a viewer, when I see movies like that, I always I can imagine what is out of frame. I know there's a crew, and so I know there are extras, and I know it's a show. And being a show, it's kind of a lie. Uh, Animation is not lying. Animation do not pretend it's reality. It's obviously a representation, an evocation, a suggestion of what happened, but it's not pretending that it's real and these characters are real. So, in a very paradoxal way, not trying to be real, make it maybe closer to the truth, and especially for that topic, I guess. So yeah, it was obvious for everyone to make that movie as an animation. And also, there's something when I spoke with Jean-Claude Grimbert, just to tell the story, Jean-Claude Grimbert is now 86 or 87 maybe, and his father has been deported during the war. And so he wrote on this topic since maybe 65 years now. So I really trust him. And it also happens that my parents who are 88 now, he's their best friend. He's my parents' best friend. So I know
Oh,
Jean-Claude Van Damme,
wow.
yeah, since I was really a kid. He's like an uncle for me.
Oh, that's
And
incredible.
yeah, yeah. So we talked a lot, and he told me something very um, practical. And he told me the guys who were going out of the guy who survived the camps at the freeing of the camps, they were weighing maybe 27 kilos or something. I don't know how much in pounds it is, but there were,
It's not
you
much.
know, yeah. So you can't have an actor doing this. And
Right.
even if you put an actor in that situation in CGI or even in real, that could be unbearable because it would be obscene. You can
Yeah.
do this with drawings because drawings, once again, it's not, I mean, it's just an evocation. So yeah,
And that will
animation.
be, of course, and that'll be seared in my memory for forever. The scenes of carrying the body, the emaciated bodies, into the and burning them. Just yeah, that's a really great answer. That's so interesting that you've known Jean-Claude your whole life. Is this your first time working with him? And what was sort of the process of adapting the source material with him?
So yeah, it's the first time I worked with him, but as I said, I mean, I heard his voice since I was a kid, so I
It's
really know
incredible.
him very well, and he's like he can be very angry and he can shout. There was some huge shouting with my mother. They're really best friends, but arguing about everything, about uh, a lot of topics, usually about Jews and but and. I mean, they're still best friends since 70 years now. So
Right.
it was like not fake or arguments, but arguments between best friends.
Yeah.
And what happened? I never worked with him because he's more like a stage play
Right.
writer, and he adapted some movies. I mean, some novels, for example, for the screen for Costa Gavras, especially, and but I never worked with him. And what happened is when he offered me to work on this one. First of all, I was not sure I wanted to do it actually because I it's not my generation. It's my parents were hidden during World War II, but I mean they were kids, and it's more my grandparents' generation. So I don't know. I thought I was not legitimate to make a movie about the Jewish genocide. It's not my story. I was raised in the 70s, and it was like a happy, very happy era. And so I don't know. I was not comfortable with that idea. And then I read that book, and that book was really, it was a new way to talk about that story for me. Something that it was not about, it was not a celebration of the victims. It was not a condemnation of the killers. It was like a celebration of uh, the rights among the rights, yeah, the righteous people who saved Jews during the war, and also it was a story made for kids, not only for kids but also for kids, and it was absolutely new for me. And all the story is not really about um, it. Yeah, it's not especially about the genocide. It's more you always have the choice to be a decent person. This is what the movie is about. And I thought it was suddenly this story was not about the past. It was more like a bet on the future. I mean, it's something that you can say to the young generation and to the kids. It's something to bring them that kind of heroes that say to them, even when you feel that the world is falling around you, you always have the choice to be a good person. And so it was very new for me. And then I realized that I have 4 kids, but I didn't really I didn't do the job of the transmission like my parents did with me. And I never really, I don't know, I never told them that kind of story. A little bit, but not that much. And so my wife, Berenice Bejo, who's an actress, she told me, you have to make that movie, actually. And because if you didn't do the job with your kids, be sure that a lot of people didn't do it neither.
Right.
So I made that movie for my kids and for, a lot of other kids. And how we work, it was not fun, but the fact that Jean-Claude was very, very much in love with his wife. I always saw him with his wife. They were like an entity, not one person. It was like one person with 2 bodies. And his wife died just before we start to work. So it was really, really very, very sad. And also it was a very hot summer in Paris. So I would go to his apartment in Paris. He was like almost naked because it was too hot. And it was so sad. He told me, you know what, I already wrote that story. I don't want to write it a second time. So we would speak, we would talk about a lot of things. And then I would go back to my house, writing the script. And the morning I would go to his apartment and I would read the sequence I wrote, and he would listen, and he would say, yeah, we did a good job today. And that was it. And then we would speak about ton of things. And then I would go back to my house, and it was like day after day, it was like this. But it was a real collaboration. I mean, even if I was the let's say the writer, like, but I couldn't. It was impossible to write that script without Jean-Claude, because the way he talk is very, very funny, very smart, and I mean, to make a movie about the Jewish genocide, he's the one you want to work with, because he's always at the right distance. For example, he would tell me, try to make them not laugh, but at least smile a little bit. Be polite. Be polite. It's such a tough story.
Yeah.
Try to make it light a little bit. Or sometimes he would say, don't try to be too pedagogic. I mean, we are not teachers. There are some teachers, they will teach. We just tell the story. And that kind of sentences that would really help me and to find the right direction. And even if I wrote for real, I mean, I really had the feeling to follow him during all this process.
Wow. That's so incredible. That sounds like just a beautiful way to collaborate on a project, and yeah, it shows in the final product. It does all of those things so beautifully, and yeah,
He was my Yoda, He
yeah,
was
right. Yes,
my-
absolutely. I can see it. So silence is used and spoken about numerous times throughout the film. Could you speak a little bit about the use of silence, and especially in both the scene where the father throws the baby out of the train, and as well as the moment that he emerges from the gates of Auschwitz? Silence is used very powerfully in those moments. I was just curious if you could speak to that choice a bit.
Yeah, well, first of all, I didn't want a too talky movie. If you look at the characters, I mean, the wood, uh, the couple,
woodcutter.
yeah, the woodcutters, they are not people they are not language people.
Yeah.
They are very, they live in a small house in the deep forest. I mean, they don't talk too much. They don't have any books. They don't have the father, he can't speak. I mean, there's nothing to say. He can speak. And at the end, he's freeing, he can say, we can hear his voice. And that's his resolution. That's his freeing. The baby doesn't speak.
Yeah.
The goat doesn't speak. No one speaks in that movie. So silence had to be important. And even the other guy, we call him Broken Face. The guy,
Yeah.
he lives alone in his forest. Nobody really speaks too much in that movie. And also, that's my personal approach. I think that I think dialogues are very, very good and efficient for comedies. But if you want to go in an emotional things, I think the more room you leave to the viewer, to the audience, the best it is. Because people are more active in the sequence. They bring a lot of them, and when you put words, it becomes very small because word is like just one thing. But when you see people acting, the music, the kind of images you present, I mean, the audience brings a lot. And so I try to leave the, the most room for the audience. And for example, and also, I mean, you were talking about the scene when he's going out of the camp. It's absolutely not accurate. I mean, no one got out of the camps with no one around. I mean, it's not the. But I thought that it could be, and it's different from the book. And but my point was I think, in an emotional point of view, this is how this man feels, really alone in a desert. I mean, nothing exists anymore. It's a desert, and the only thing is the wind in the leaves of the trees, and the breath, and that's how life comes back. But it's very, very, very small. So if you want to feel that very small thing, you have to uh, to put everything out of the frame, of the sound, and on everything.
That's beautiful. Yeah, that's I definitely read that scene of him leaving as sort of a heightened not what's actually happening, but how he feels it's happening. So that was beautifully crafted. We're coming up on the end of our time, but I just had one final question. So the last few lines of the film, you discussed this a bit, but it's framed as sort of a fairy tale that never happened, where the narrator says that there were no trains, there were no, essentially just saying that it was all fabricated, it was a fairy tale. And obviously, as we know, that is not the case. It did happen. It is real. But it does sort of hold a mirror up to our current state of the world, where there are people who openly deny that the Holocaust ever happened. And I was just curious, with all of that being said, why do you feel that this is an important story to tell in 2026?
Well, it's not exactly the final sequence is not like nothing happened. It
Right.
says one can say that it never happened. People say that it never happened. So it's kind of ironic, and this is really the kind of humor of Jean-Claude Grimbert. This is in the book, actually. And but I fully agree with him. And I think the most dangerous thing is not the people, the negationists, the people who say it never happened. I don't think they are very important, and they are not so much. I think it's more dangerous. The danger comes from people who, the relativism, people who say, yeah, there's this, but there's this as well. And of course, there was the Jewish genocide, but there's another suffering, and there's another, of course, but that doesn't mean or anything. I mean,
Right.
unfortunately, there's a lot of suffering in the world and in the history. So relativism is more dangerous for me than negationism. And why it was important for me to tell that story? It was important to tell that story that way. As I said, I wouldn't tell that story in another way because it's a tale. And as a tale, as you know, in a tale, the characters, they don't have names. It's always the princess, the king, the dumb, the witch,
The
but
night.
yeah, but the knight, but nobody has names.
Yeah.
And so since we told that story as a tale, you don't have the name Jew in the movie. You don't have the name Nazis in the movie. And what does that create? That creates an open story, something that I strongly believe. That story, the Jewish genocide, doesn't belong to Jews. It belongs to humanity. It belongs to everyone. And when you put out the name Jews or the name Nazis or the name Germans, that story belongs to everybody. And I screened that movie in front of a lot of kids, classes, and I've been in a screening, there were 650 kids and people from everywhere, from every part of the world, Africa, North Africa, Asia, France, Eastern Europe, wherever you want. And they were all connected to that story. And they were all connected because it's a tale, and a tale make the story universal. And that's why I thought it was a good way to tell that story.
That's beautiful. Michel, thank you so much for your time
Thank
today.
you. Thank you
I
very
could
much.
speak to you all day about this, but we only have limited time. So I really appreciate you taking the time and for sharing this film with us.
Thank you. I hope everyone enjoyed the movie. Thank you.